Hey guys, just want to make sure you guys can hear me while I set this up and allow some people to come in. I'm also trying to set up the privacy so you guys can share this and share this. And I can see your comments as they come in. So I think we're good here. Change that to public. Yeah, we'll just kind of go from there and see what happens. But I hope you guys are doing well today. It's good to see you. Yeah, so good to see you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, first off, I just want to start off by just saying thank you. Thank you. Because of you guys, I've been able to get to in the system over 100 pre-orders of the One Up Effect. This is really, really exciting for me. It's a major milestone. Been celebrating every pre-order that comes in. I feel like my wife is getting a little sick of it, but each one is very meaningful to me, and I really am appreciative. And of course, with the 70 plus that have been committed that will show up in the system next week, that means we're actually much closer to 200 bucks. And so if you are able, get more copies, share with your friends, definitely send this over to people who you know could use it. I'm happy to talk with them and share why I'm writing the book and all these things. You can send them videos I've done, this live, you can send them the link, all those things. And so when you get a chance, let me just pull it up here so you guys can go there. There we go. Get your copy right there. So outside of that, I wanted to really get into the 5 principles of the One Up Effect and why it's important, how I came up with this, and really how you can apply this to all areas of your life. Now, some of you guys are coming from different channels, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, my Facebook page, and some of you guys already know what I'm up to now. Some of you guys have not seen or heard any updates from me or haven't been able to catch up since my days as the professional wingman. And so some of you guys might be here looking for some dating advice, some life advice, relationship advice. All that's great. And I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have. But the one thing I want to share with you is that this principle, this idea of the One Up Effect, creating the One Up Effect in your life is applicable to all areas of your life. And there are 12 areas in which I like to focus on. They are governed inside of 4 worlds where we play this game. And each world has 3 levels. And so you'll know about that inside one of the principles. But these principles are really designed for us to have some level of structure around what we're doing in life and where we're at, where we're going, and how we're doing. I feel like sometimes, and I'll share my personal experience, I had so many stories just programmed in my life where I just assumed that the outcome and that the destination was the goal. And when you have such a broad story around what success means to you, or security, or freedom, it becomes this never-ending quest where, because you're not there and you're constantly looking at your current position and you're looking at the position in which you think will get you to those things, you're not there. So you are always thinking like you'll never get there. That's this constant pursuit. And we've heard this in conversations. I've brought this up in conversation, right? It always feels like we're constantly in pursuit of something. We're never actually at the destination. And part of that is life, right? In life, the destination is death. That is the end game. But before we get there, there's a lot of things that we get to experience now. And oftentimes I find in the work that I've done and also my personal experience that we don't allow ourselves to have what we can have right now because we're constantly looking ahead to the next thing. We're constantly paying attention to what we don't have and constructing plans and strategies towards what we can get, how we can get those things in hopes that they can fulfill a void or fulfill some type of list that we have in our lives. And this programming that keeps going on more and more and more over time has actually been created based on previous generations. You know, your family, your parents, their parents, their parents. It's been created by the people that you've been around and their stories and um, how they've governed their actions, their feelings, and their behaviors. Even when they were in grade school, when they were classmates, you've been seeing it in the media, whether it's through movies, through commercials, through TV shows, through ads. You've been seeing it very much so today in the world of social media through the art of the scroll. Seeing all these things that we feel like if we had those things, we'd be happier because we don't have these things, and we see other people have these things that they not only do they look happier than we do, but maybe we're not good enough to have those things if they're not in my life and then I'm seeing it in someone else's life. And this becomes like a cyclical pattern that we go through that slowly over time lowers not only our self-esteem but our willpower, our resilience, our capacity for growth. And it can lead us, you know, at least to share from my experience, it can lead to a very dark road that's filled with depression, escapism, and just the lack of willingness to really live a full life and sometimes live at all. And all this is wrapped around this idea that if I had these things in my life, if I were able to create success, if I revolved my entire life around building achievement, then all the happiness, the freedom, the growth, the expansion, all the things that I think will make me happy will come after that level, that place of success. And that really rolls into the first principle of the one up effect. And it's two parts. One is that, believe it or not, your life is a game. And you are playing, whether you're willingly, you know, or where you know it or not. And the second thing is the game that you're playing right now isn't designed for you to win. You might think that you're winning, and that's part of the program, right? The objective of this game is to get you playing, making you feel like you're winning. But as we know, games are designed for us to have fun. And if we're not having fun, then are we really winning? And in my experience, what I've found that is when people are feeling like they're winning, but they're not happy, that means someone else is really winning and someone else is really happy, typically to our expense, at our expense. And so it really comes to this idea that, wow, like I'm not really having, uh, creating a life that's actually meaningful or happy, even though I'm winning. We get this empty feeling after we achieve something or reach a level of success, and we don't know why. We don't understand why we feel this emptiness, why we feel this sense of, well, that's done. So what's next? And we don't allow ourselves to be in the present moment of, wow, I actually did this. And it's because we've been just hardwired since we were little to really focus on success and achievement as the only form of not only status, but self worth. And if you go a little deeper, how we identify ourselves. We really identify ourselves through what we've accomplished. And if we feel like we haven't accomplished much, or if we feel like we haven't accomplished enough, then immediately we start to devalue ourselves. And we don't think of ourselves as highly, especially when we compare ourselves to other people. So the first principle really dictates that you're playing this game and you're not winning because you're not having fun. Which then goes into this game. What is the game to be played here in life? What is the game that's going to allow us to win and be happy? Happiness is such, uh, You know, in some parts of this, happiness is overrated, and in other parts, happiness is so underrated. But what I do know is that through studies and research, we are unhappier than we've ever been in our lives. And if we look back in history, there are some times where it's totally justified to be unhappy. Yet, at this present moment, and I'm talking specifically the United States of America, we are unhappier than we've been in the past 50 plus years. Why is that? We can look at many different reasons. Social media, we're working too much, we're not doing as much for ourselves, we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not taking care of our mental health. There's so many things that we can point to. But we started like really pulling out the reasons why, and that's something that I think we all can really take a look at and be unapologetic and seeing, hey, like my life isn't filled for a place with happiness. Instead of focusing on the problem, we can start focusing on the solution. If the idea that creating fun and happiness and joy in your life could actually make life better for you, including making how you show up in your work or how you show up in ways where you're achieving things or performing at a high level better without having to put in the amount of time that you feel is necessary, it could really make a huge difference. So what I really want to share with you guys is, well, the first way to do that goes into the second principle of the one up effect, which is to know your character. You know, when it comes to this game of life, you are the main character. You are the protagonist and antagonist in this game. And you can always have an idea of where you want to go. But ultimately, if you don't know where you are now and you have a realistic assessment of where you are now in the current conditions of your life, you'll never be able to find a clear path that will get you to where you want to be. This is simply like, I compare it to the Google Maps analogy. The moment you open that app, it looks for your location. It immediately looks for your location. It has to know where you are right now. And then you can put in where you want to go, and it'll find that location, right? Until you decide to ask for directions, will you be able to know where you are and where you're going? Those 2 points are the most important elements of allowing that application to work. If it doesn't know where your current location is, it can only tell you the location of where you want to go without any indication of how you can get there. If you don't have a location that you want to go to, it can only show you where you are now. And it's so important to know exactly where both of those locations are. But we spend a lot of time focusing on where we want to go and not enough time focusing on where we are right now to take a realistic look at, what am I good at? What am I not so good at? What is the story governing my life? What are the stories that allow me to feel, behave, and make decisions that determine where I am in my life right now? And so there's different areas of this character that you get to look at. One is your character defaults. What is your character when you are just living your life normally? Just the status quo. And then you start to think about, well, what are my go-tos? What are my go-to feelings, my thoughts, my behaviors, my decisions when I'm experiencing stress? How do I respond? Whether if I'm in conflict, am I a runner? Am I confrontational? Or what are your defaults when you're experiencing growth? Are you someone that is more of a loyalist, where you finally find a path that works for you and you stick to it and you're very disciplined in that track? Or are you someone who just looks for the next best thing and uses that instead of what has actually been working? What is your response when you're experiencing growth? To know these things doesn't mean that, and just because they're called defaults doesn't mean that like you're destined to live your entire life that way. You're, in many cases, and so for so many of my clients, they've been able to transform their defaults, but they wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't know what they were. And when you get a chance to look at what your defaults are, you can make those type of choices. So you have character defaults. The other thing is your character vision. how do you see the world? And ultimately, how do you think the world sees you? This vision, this lens that you take a look at determines a lot about how you approach life, how you approach people, how you approach challenges. And if you're not real about what your vision is, you might end up creating a distorted reality that's different from your true reality, which then, when we go back to the Google Maps location, this could be as something, this could look like when your app has a hard time pinpointing your real location. So you can kind of see the blue dot kind of bounce around and not really sure where your location is. And then it just makes a guess because it really doesn't know. Right. And so then when you put in the location where you want to go, you have a somewhat accurate representation, but it's really just an estimate because it doesn't know where you are right now. It can't see from where you are right now. And so knowing how you view yourself and being really understanding of that, and also how you think the world views you, is really key in understanding your vision and how that vision is going to impact your road ahead towards eventually where you want to be. Then, of course, in any game with any character, there are ratings, right? These are ratings that show off what are your strengths, what are some of your not so strong spots. Sometimes these are called shadows. Some of these are called weaknesses. Some of these are called blind spots. Sometimes you hear these phrases, but whatever they are, these are just here to determine what are your strong suits, what are your skill sets, what are the things that you already have right now that you can leverage to then make experiences moving forward, especially when these experiences will bring challenges, better for you. Because ultimately what you want to do is you want to create a life that is filled with challenges, but also with enough skill set to overcome them. When we have challenges that don't allow us to leverage our skill sets, it makes it so insurmountable for us that we don't even try, or at the first moment of friction, we give up. We just don't want to deal with that. So it's really important to understand what our skills are so then we can determine, well, what actually is going to be possible on this path towards where we want to go that's going to allow me to leverage these skill sets and help overcome those challenges that may come along the way. And then lastly, we look at what I call your character XP. Your XP in most games stands for experience points. In this game, we're talking about happiness and fulfillment. How happy are you in the areas of your life that matter to you? When you look at when you get in to check in with your physical wellness, mental wellness, maybe even your spiritual wellness, how happy, how fulfilled do you feel like you are in those areas? I mean, those are just 3 areas, but there's many others. How do you feel about your relationships? How do you feel about your job, your current career track? How do you feel about the people in your life, the places that you like to go, maybe the experiences, right? These are all areas which we can take a look at and assess what is important to you. I just want to do a quick check-in before I move into the next principle. But I hope you guys if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can ask. I should be able to see these, but for some reason, they're not showing up on my computer. So keep asking. And if I don't see them now, I will go back into the restream and I will answer them after. But I really appreciate you guys being here and checking it out. The third principle that I want to share with you guys is to learn how to play. So learning how to play any game is obviously important, but so you've already now understand your character, and then you go into now learning how to play. I love using Super Mario Brothers, the original Nintendo version, because it's the most basic version. I can even go further back to Pac-Man, but I feel like Mario makes it a little just enough complex, but to still understand. So when you play Super Mario Brothers, the original one for Nintendo, what ends up happening? You start the game, you see that like how many lives you have, what world, what level you're in, and then you start off with Mario on the left side of the screen, big blue sky, kind of a brick paved road, nothing else. And so immediately you start to wonder, okay, like I have this controller in my hand, what do I need to do? Well, if I'm on the left side, maybe I should try to go to the right side. So you start moving. And that's your first experiment, your experience in learning how to play. Now you're being drawn into the idea that I need to move my character. I need to go somewhere. Now, once you get like halfway to the middle of the screen, now the screen starts to move, right? The platform starts to shift until you run into what you normally would see in the first level: bricks, a couple question blocks, and a Goomba. Now, at this moment, you've only been running, hypothetically. Now you have things that are coming towards you, that are above you, and you're wondering, well, what do I need to do with this? Do I run through the Goomba? Do I jump over it? Can I jump? Do I jump on the Goomba? Can I hit these bricks? All these questions come to mind, but intuitively, you have this controller. So you start pressing buttons, and eventually you hit A and you jump. So then you decide, well, I don't want to die, or I don't want to get hit by this Goomba, so you'll jump over it. Maybe sometimes you'll hit it, and then you realize, oh, I can jump on these things. Now you're hitting the bricks, and you're like, oh, I can't break these right now. I'm little Mario. You don't really know that yet, right? That you're little, but you just know at the current condition, status, you're just able to hit the brick, but not break it. Then you hit a question block. And one of these question blocks is a coin. Another one is a red mushroom. Now, this red mushroom's now on the move. It's coming towards you. You don't know if you should be hitting it, jumping over it, whatever, but you let it hit you because it looks friendly. And all of a sudden, now you're Big Mario. And now you're in this place where maybe I can hit these bricks now. I'm pretty big now. And you're able to hit these bricks. This sequence that takes place over the course of 35 to 60 seconds is essentially this game introducing you to the game loop, which is running and jumping. That's it. Now, as you move along in the game, how well you have mastered the running and the jumping will determine how far do you get into the game. As you go into the level, things get a little bit more complex. There are pipes, there are different enemies to battle or handle, different types of bricks, question blocks that can have multiple coins, different power-ups. Different power-ups have different abilities. It goes on and on and on and on. But at the end of the day, from the first level all the way to the last level, the thing that is consistent is the running and the jumping. And how you do it determines how far you get to the game and eventually win. Life, and this is my philosophy and my experience, life has a very unique way of giving you a game loop. Outside of waking up and going to sleep, there are certain patterns and rituals that we all do. Some of them help us, some of them don't. And when we become cognizant and aware of the fact that our lives are built based on a game loop that we get to create and have some level of control to it, this can dramatically change your life. This is the introduction of what I like to call HP. HP stands for health points. And throughout the day, there are things that you can do to increase your health points as you carry on with your day and take on the daily demands that might deplete your HP. But I want you to consider the idea that this is the game loop of your life. How you power yourself up will determine your level and sustainability of performance throughout the day and days that go on after that. So if you're not doing things that power yourself up and you have a lot to do that day, you're going to get this sense of feeling completely exhausted, spent, maybe even beat up. And we can point to your HP and say, well, dude, you ran at low HP today. But if you're able to look at HP and say, man, like I actually did a lot for myself and I powered up, how you tackle that day is remarkably different than how you did the previous day where you had low HP. It's a very simple structure that we can then make more complicated as it goes on. But the idea is the game loop is your ability to master how you power up, how you increase your capacity to take on more responsibility and more, and just more in your life. It increases your resilience as you go and handle your daily demands. But more importantly, this is something that I didn't even realize until I was in it, was that it increases your integrity. These are things that you end up doing for yourself. And you're doing for yourself every single day. Some of these things you do before other things. Some of these things you do before you take care of your kids, before you greet your spouse. Some of the things you do for them. Some of these things you don't do for them, right? But ultimately, these are things that will increase your integrity in the sense that once you are declaring it and then you're following up and you're doing it, now you're starting to build this integrity of being someone who does what they say. And for a lot of people that I've worked with, this has become the bigger game because my clients and other people that I've had conversations with, are not in integrity with themselves. They're not someone who does what they say. And for whatever reason, whether, I don't see it as necessarily good or bad, it's just what is. But that lack of integrity has impacted their lives in a way that doesn't serve them. And so getting that integrity back by having a daily ritual, a game loop, allows you to naturally increase your ability to not just do more, but also to be more. And so I'll leave it there for now, but that is the most important part. There's another part that I love to share, and I'm not going to go too much into it. I'll share it for another time, but there's another metric I like to use that's called MP, which stands for magic points. These are considered the power-ups that you experience in any game. In Mario, it was the red mushroom, the fire plant, the star. In other Marios, he had other power-ups, but these are the things that accelerates your ability to transform, and to grow, and to build. And oftentimes, these power-ups come when there's a story that exists that doesn't serve us anymore. These stories can dictate behaviors, decisions, thoughts, and feelings that negatively impact us. When I mean negatively, I mean just in a way that doesn't serve us. I like to try to maintain a level of neutrality when it comes to these things, because we're meant to have what we're meant to have. And so if we're meant to have it, it must mean that there's something there for us. And if it's up to us to go into it and find it, that's where the magic exists. That's where we can get magic points. For me, and I like to use this analogy, that a lot of my magic was found in the dark. The darkness being how I was feeling. The darkness meaning, low vibrational levels, sometimes even low consciousness levels. Magic is found in the places where we don't want to look. And oftentimes the places that we look, and as we discover these stories, these are the stories that our ego has convinced us to live by as a means to protect ourselves meaning our egos, from dying. Because if we were to overcome these stories that we know don't actually serve us, and we live a better life because of it, our ego becomes less involved in our lives, and our ego does not want that. And as I said before, when I talked about this idea about the conversation between the soul and the ego, your ego does not want to die. So it's going to do everything it can to make sure that it doesn't die. But ultimately, your soul, the part of you that makes you divinely you, wants to live. And it's trying to do everything it possibly can to live. And often our lives are dictated based on who we listen to. Do we listen to our ego or do we listen to our soul? And how much do we listen to? For me, it's not like 100% soul, 0% ego. But I will say that most times throughout my day, and most days, my soul has the louder voice. And when my ego does have a voice, I'm able to listen to it and understand it and find out what's the story behind this voice, and what can be transformed here that not only can create a new story that helps me, but also lets me learn something about this experience that now I can apply to other parts of my life. So I will talk about this in another future live, because I feel like this is just so important for us to understand. And can really be just a game changer, pun intended, in your process for transformation. All right. Principle number 4 is develop the skills. So now that you've learned the game loop, now you have the character, now you have the game loop, and you've learned how to play. Well, what are the skills to develop outside of that? Well, the skills are developed in the different areas of your life. And I've broken this up into 4 worlds: purpose, play, passion, and performance. Purpose, these levels inside of purpose are your physical, mental, and spiritual wellness. Inside of the world of play, they're the people, the places, and the experiences that bring you joy. In the world of passion, it's self-love, it's love of romance, and love of the world, otherwise known to me as empathy and scaling empathy. And then lastly, the world of performance talks about increasing, sharing, and asking for value. And it's naturally done in a what would you say, like a kind of a progressive order. So that way we take care of the foundational levels of your physical wellness, the people in your life that bring you joy, self-love, and being able to increase your value of yourself as an asset to your family, as an asset to your company, as an asset to the world, your community. Starting there at the foundation allows you then to level up into other areas that will be more demanding, of course, and require a little bit deeper work. And you'll have the foundation of that first level to always hold you. And so knowing that these are the areas in which you're looking to level up keeps the game focused. You just know that I just have to go through these levels. And then the last one, the last principle, and the most important principle, I believe, is to play to win and have fun. That is really what it's about. For any game, we like to win. I'm not even going to ignore that, right? Like, we love to win. We want the satisfaction of achievement. It's why we go after the things that we go after. And like any game, it's designed for us to have fun. There are very few games on this planet that are not designed to have that are not designed for you to have fun. And so if we were to take this idea and apply it to life, you can start to find ways in which we can have fun and create opportunities for us to win. Because the great thing about games is, even if they're challenging and we don't win on the first try, we've had enough fun where we're willing to try again and again and again. And each time we try again, we've learned something new that's going to allow us to play better or have a different experience the next time. And it keeps repeating itself until eventually we win that challenge. And then that satisfaction comes in. But notice, the fun doesn't go away. The fun actually stays there. Once it gets to a point where you're not having fun, then that's not the game that you should be playing. And so often, we're so driven on creating success, and we get stuck in this place because we feel like success is everything, that we don't allow ourselves to have fun anymore. And then the fun's gone. Now we're just focusing on winning. And then if we're losing, or if we're not able to win, it's only a matter of time before we stop trying. So playing to win and have fun. And typically what this revolves around is creating a game-based lifestyle where you're setting yourself some really reachable commitments, targets, goals, objectives, however you want to call it for yourself. And following the principles of the one-up effect allows you to actually go about it daily and allow yourself to have fun along the way, going after what it is that you want, not what you think other people want from you, but ultimately what you want. For me personally, when I was able to transform my life in a short period of time, it was so dramatic that, like, my wife wasn't even sure if it was real. Like, she just had her doubts, like, especially with like where I was a little bit over 2 years ago. For me to make that type of turnaround seemed like it wasn't real. And when I look back at what made that difference is because I finally allowed myself to declare what I wanted, what I wanted that didn't have to do with anyone else. Like I really focused on choosing myself first over my wife, over my daughter, over my business, over my friends and family, which was one of the hardest things that I had to do. And it turned out to be the best thing for me. Because when I made that decision, I only had to focus on how I can bring joy out of myself. And then that's when I realized that I am joy. I just need to let myself have it, let myself be it. So this is the experience that so many people have been going through and experiencing for themselves. And I'm so grateful to see a lot of the transformation that so many people have made over time. Most importantly, them having fun again. It doesn't mean that their lives are just like, without conflict or challenge or like hardship. In fact, going through this process will probably create more because you're going through a time in your life where you're finally facing the things that you've been ignoring your entire life, or at least for most of your life. So yeah, the hardship actually becomes even more because you're choosing to go on this journey. But when you're able to use a framework or a mindset or even a philosophy that says that you can do this, and it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be painful in the sense of like, it doesn't have to be the only feeling that you experience, that you actually can have some fun in experiencing the pain, that you can have some fun going in the dark. You can have some fun approaching challenges. You can have some fun living a highly demanding life. These are all things that we get to do. And when there's more joy and happiness in our lives, the more we do, the more we become. And it really is that simple. And as simple as it is, it takes a very dramatic shift in how we show up as individuals that allows that to happen. So that's essentially all I have. I really wanted to share these principles with you. These are the principles that I will be covering in heavy, heavy detail with real life examples from my clients, from my own personal experience inside the One Up Effect. It doesn't matter if you enjoy games. And I've seen this. I've talked to people who actually just aren't video games people, and they actually really love this concept because whether they like puzzles or crossword puzzles or Sudoku or anything like that, word searches, anything like that, they understand the idea that they do things specifically to have fun. And because games are designed to have fun, they find a way to enjoy it. And then being able to take that philosophy and bring it over into life, they're able to click with it. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, I'm not a gamer, I don't play video games, this wouldn't really work for me, I really want you to check into that, because this is not necessarily about games. I love video games. So for me, this makes it very easy for me to talk about it in this way. But I want you to think of it in the construct of, well, what else do you do in your life that you gamify? And what I mean by that is like, I'll give you an example. Like when you go to the grocery store, do you mentally create a game of how quickly you can get in and out of that place? When you go to places that you don't want to be, do you make a game mentally that challenges you to get in and out as quickly as possible? Do you make games about how quickly you can get to a place now that you have Google Places, things like Google Maps, to tell you, I can get there quicker? See, I'm going to show you. There are different ways that we mentally make a game, because we find that when we gamify mundane activities or experiences, they tend to be better for us. And they allow us to get through them. And sometimes they get us to a place where we might actually enjoy them and be willing to do it again. So this idea of being able to bring us over to all parts of your life is more than possible. Excuse me. And so, yeah. And so this is why I'm writing the book, essentially, because this was just like a big part of my life. And without this, I don't know where I would be. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think, I mean, if I were to guess, I don't think I would be in a marriage. I'd have a marriage. I don't think that I would be able to spend as much time with my daughter as I do now. I don't think that I would have any of this to share with you guys. But I definitely certainly wouldn't have a business that at least would be thriving. My relationships would be very different. My health would be very different. My connection to spirit would be very different. I mean, there's so many different areas of my life that I can look at and say, wow, like this wouldn't be here without the one-up effect. And it feels so right for me to share this with you guys. Like I am so determined for this to be out there in the world for all who are looking for something like this, to give them any glimmer of hope that their life can be fun and meaningful without having to sacrifice the idea of achievement and success. Like this is something that will be a part of our lives to some extent. And it's totally okay. Like I am an achiever. So for me, achievement is very important. And now it's not on the forefront. It's just something that I allow myself to do while I focus on what's really important to me, which is fun and happiness and joy. And so if you're someone who, when you hear those three words, fun, happiness, and joy, you cringe, or you're not sure what that looks like for you today, or maybe you kind of reminisce on the last time you experienced that, then perhaps this is the kind of book that you get to read. And listen, like if you guys have any questions about the principles, if you want to talk more about this, I'm so available. You can message me on any of these platforms that you're watching this right now. And I'm happy to connect with you and see how I can be of service to really bring some more happiness and joy into your life. And for those of you who are hearing this, and maybe you are an entrepreneur, you run a business, or you have a team that you're on, and this could really support you and your team, especially during a time where a lot of us are working from home, and you want to bring some sense of connection and wellness into your situation, please reach out to me. I have worked with businesses. I do work with businesses that are looking for something like this that can allow their employees to continue to work at a high level, but in a way that's more sustainable. Like let's not have employees burn out even more than they already have. Let's have some fun so they can be recharged and excited about doing the work that they do, even if it's not something that they actually plan on doing forever. And lastly, like the one thing I do want to point out is for, typically we get this, oftentimes I hear that when I talk about gaming, that this is about men. Women aren't gamers. And I have no idea where this came from. I don't know where the information comes from, but that couldn't be further from the truth. When you include the casual gaming market, female gamers represent the majority of the the gamers in all communities. And so they're definitely more. This is definitely something that's applicable to women. There's a lot of women that I've talked to who really vibe with this, and it really aligns with where they want to go and take things in their lives. And I also want to let you guys, let the ladies who are listening to this, I also want to let you know that I've been sitting with this for a while, and obviously with the launch of this book, this is something I want men and women to read. I want that also to be reflective in my coaching and in what I am in service to. And so for my flagship programs that I've been working on and been doing for the past year and a half plus, I will be opening them to women as well to join. and we will be having co-ed programs for the first time ever. I'm really, really excited about this. I feel like there's a lot of wisdom and connection and sharing and value that can be exchanged inside of an amazingly healthy and growing container. And I know that I have the capacity to hold such a container. And so if you're listening here and you want, and you've always been interested in wanting to work with me, now you have the chance to do so again. And you can reach out to me privately. You can message me. I'll also be sharing an email about this, but I wanted to really announce it live because as I move forward with the One Up Effect, this is something that I want to make sure it's very clear. This is not something that's just for men. This is something for everyone to implement in their lives. And they do not need to be a traditional gamer. They just need to be someone who wants to have fun. So with that, I will wrap things up. I didn't see any questions. Well, shout out to Mark for saying what's up. Howie says, listen to the man, people. I'm not a big gamer, but the program has been life-changing for me. Thanks, Thomas. Howie, thank you for saying that. You've been absolutely incredible, and I'm so grateful to have you inside as a part of one of our squads. And we have a ways to go, so I'm excited to be with you on this journey. And for those of you who are here looking for dating advice and didn't get it, if you want to ask me a question, you can still ask a question. I will answer it inside the comments or provide any resources that can help you get closer to those answers that you're looking for. Any other questions? I think we're good. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. This is something that I will share across my other channels that I couldn't be live. And just be sure to direct people to this video, have them understand what the One Up Effect is. Definitely share the link to get copies of the One Up Effect. I'm really excited to now branch out to universities, colleges, and businesses to really share this idea with them all. Because I feel like at this time in the world that we live, mental health and happiness gets to be a priority, be above everything else. Because the truth is, for me personally, if I didn't take care of myself, then there's no chance I would be here today to take care of the responsibilities and the roles that I have in my life, including being a father, including being a husband, a coach, a friend, a son, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin, an advisor, a trainer, and just an overall human being. And so I really can't express how grateful I am to have adopted this philosophy and have it allow me to receive the things that I've been able to receive. It's just been nothing short of magical, and I want to share this magic with you guys. So that's all I got. Hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you soon. And if you are checking this later, just use #replay so I know you're watching this after gone live, and I'll still be available to answer any questions that you have. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys soon.